Hey there, Skullheads. I'm Snags.
And I'm old Silky.
Go to
I'm Jay.
and this is Jay. Yeah, back with us again. Kevin Smith has his Jay, and we've got our Jay. This is our
Back for the attack,
Yeah.
Mr. Lafarge.
Yeah. Well, eventually we'll have our own version of Silent Bob. We'll bring on at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Silent Bob's here. He just never talks.
Yeah, he doesn't talk.
Our Silent Bob is here. All right, so go to snagsandsilky.com and buy everything on the store and buy our book. Create multiple Amazon accounts and go out and get a bunch of different credit cards and buy multiple copies of our Kindle book. And we got to quit our day jobs and retire on an island at some point. So you got to help us out.
Tonight's episode's on Bill Hicks, so we want to go out, and just consuming mass amounts of drugs and live a good life like Bill Hicks would have approved of.
Only the right drugs, though.
The right,
Yeah,
yes. Well,
shrooms.
Right.
It's got to be shrooms so we can learn how we're at one with the universe and all that.
Yeah. So tonight's, like I said, on Bill Hicks, we have to think about just comedians, Lenny Bruce comes to mind, Richard Pryor, just iconic comedians that really captured their generation or their audience. Red Fox, Eddie Murphy,
George
Carlin, Sam Kinison, and then you can put Bill Hicks in there with all of these guys. He really held his own, and died way too early, pancreatic cancer.
30 years ago today.
30 years ago today.
To the day. This is death anniversary episode now.
So my introduction for Bill Hicks, I can remember working at Tower Records with Jason Lafarge, and we would, to my knowledge, we had like an hour lunch. So what I remember. So we would get in the car and, go out to Wendy's or, one of these other fast food places. And it was like an escape from the job. You go and chill out somewhere. And Jay had, believe that first CD in the car, Relentless.
It would have been a cassette at the time.
No.
And basically how that came about. I had been living in Columbus, Georgia, going to college in Columbus, Georgia, just before moving back to Atlanta and then working at Tower Records. Mm-hmm. And in Columbus, there wasn't a lot to do there. I don't think there still is a lot to do there. It's a pretty awful place, my recollection of it. And so we would just find anything that was off the beaten path a little bit. And we found on a trip to Blockbuster, of all things, Blockbuster. Kids, you need to look that up on Wikipedia. It was a video store.
I worked there, and I have horror stories, but we won't.
I bet you do. But in Columbus, Georgia, we came across this VHS tape called Impact Video Magazine. And it turns out it was Alex Winters of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures. It was something that he put out, and he was the host of it. And it had Jane's Addiction. It had Butthole Surfers. It had the artist Robert Williams. It had Survival Research Laboratories. It had all this amazing stuff that just blew my mind at the time. This would have been 1989, 1990, probably right around this period.
Yeah, and that's all on VHS.
It's on a VHS tape. It's called Impact Video Magazine. I still have it. I actually ended up getting a copy many years later.
Oh, I bet that's long gone, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it was never released on DVD or anything like that. I'm sure someone has probably put it on YouTube. It might be something.
I will check. I'll check YouTube, but continue your story.
So right after there's an amazing Butthole Surfers piece on there called Welcome to Texas. If you can't find the Impact Video Magazine, you should definitely look up Butthole Surfers Welcome to Texas. And this video is amazing and just twisted and fucked up as only the Butthole Surfers can be. And right at the end of it, right as it ends, here comes Bill Hicks. And it's just this little bit for about, it's like a 5-minute skit, maybe even less. 3, 4 minutes.
Let me ask a quick question. Is it did it have Public Enemy as well?
It did have Public Enemy as well, yes, sir.
I found it. We'll link it from the Click Pit.
Excellent.
Condor.
As you should.
Just got done with my shower.
What's up, El Condor?
He's Mr. Clean.
Yes.
El Condor in the house. What up, brother?
I just got done with my shower. As you can see, my dirty clothes. Also,
That's his British accent, by the way.
Also, to you parents out there, if you're looking for a school to your child, I would say you go to Dale South.
Well, we're not going to say what school you're at. Okay, we don't do that.
What? It's a good school.
No, I don't need anybody coming to take out.
I can edit whatever we need to edit.
They don't even allow that. Remember, green cards.
Green cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Green chairs make the best toast. Hey, El Condor. Green chairs make the best toast.
I mean, green cards with your name on it in the parents' car.
All right.
Green chairs make the best toast.
Okay. There we go.
So Bill Hicks shows up and he's on.
Out there now. Have a good night.
Okay.
He's on
Peace
the steps.
out, brother.
He's on the steps of I believe it's either the Supreme Court or Congress. I forget what it is. But he's talking about at the time the Reagan and George Bush administration, and it was hilarious. It was just it nailed it. It was like, who is this guy?
Right.
I'd seen all this stuff, and so this was my introduction to Bill Hicks. I saw Bill Hicks for the first time then. That was the only thing I saw of him until I got the job at Tower, and then I was given the job to straighten the cassette section, like on my second day there,
right.
Summer of 1991. And so I'm going through this awful cassette section, and boom, in front of me are 2 Bill Hicks cassettes, Dangerous and Relentless. And
nice.
I had no idea that they existed. I had no idea that he had ever had albums out. So this would have been in summer of 1991.
Right, and you recognize him from the
from the Impact Video Magazine, absolutely. And so I bought them that day. I bought both the cassettes that day, and so that's what you would have heard.
That's great.
So you got the job shortly after I started working.
Yeah, I started. I believe I started August, and you started July. So
that is correct. Yeah,
a few weeks away. Now, do you think Bill Hicks would have been a staunch conservative or libertarian? Where would you?
He would ended up going liberal. He would have ended up going liberal. He was definitely of a libertarian sort of mindset at that time. I
just don't see him liking Biden.
I'm not going to go into politics on this thing, but
I should avoid that. And who knows where he would have ended up? But he was definitely. His rant, if you look at his rant about the Waco thing, I mean, he was definitely not hardcore in favor of the state pushing people around, but he also wasn't in favor of religious fanatics pushing people around.
Yeah.
So
I think he would have just
a mix of views.
Tried to take the right stance in any situation.
Everybody's views don't have to fit into one party or the other.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That is very true.
Keep going, Jay.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I existed on those two cassettes for a long time, and then 1994 came around, and just out of nowhere, Lily Brownson, our friend Lily, who was a harbinger of death in those days, came in and knocked on the office door that I was in. She said, Bill Hicks died, right? And just a gut punch. I had no idea. It's like all I knew of him, because at that time there wasn't internet or anything like that to go.
You didn't have YouTube.
I didn't have YouTube. Didn't have all I had were those cassettes, and I'd listened to them for so long. And I mean, maybe I'd seen another couple of videos of his stuff, but there wasn't a lot. And so all of a sudden, boom, he's gone.
Was Rant in E minor posthumous?
It was posthumous. Both Arizona Bay and Rant in E minor were posthumous, and they were released by Rykodisc. And this would have been probably a year later, 1995, I think, Rykodisc. And then they also reissued Dangerous and Relentless. So you had 4 CDs out at once. And you know, that was great. It was like, this is, you know, I'd been so shocked by his death, and here, you know, to have this extra material.
I think a lot of people were shocked by his death. There's a great documentary, which we'll link from the Click Pit, American, the Bill Hicks story.
Yes.
And he basically, he didn't tell anybody he was dying. He knew he was dying for quite a while. He told his closest circle of friends, like right before he died.
Yeah, like he toured and then said he like went back to his parents to basically
moved back home. Yeah, he moved back home.
But and we'll get to that, but it's no shocker that you were shocked that he died, because, you know, there was no warning.
Yeah, you know? No, and I think during that Rant in E minor tour, he knew he was dying. He knew that the material on that, he knew is gone. And my tragedy and this is that I saw he came through Atlanta and played, and I remember
how did we not go to that?
Because I'm a dumbass and I was probably broke. I think it would have been in 93. It would have been around the time that I got married, and I think we were either out of town, or we were going out of town, or we were, you know, saving up. And he'll be back in 6 months. I'll see him then.
Yeah, that's what I told myself when Nirvana came through on the In Utero tour, and I was offered free tickets. I'll see him some other
time. I know I would have been broke in 93.
Well, we worked at Tower. I mean, we were broke.
You were record store clerks.
You didn't make anything. I mean, I just recently looked at my paycheck stub from Tower back in the day. I was like,
$400.
Oh, it was less. It was ridiculous. It was like, how did we exist on this shit?
Yeah, you know, it's amazing.
Yeah. So we could talk about the individual releases to a certain point. I would want to start actually in the middle. I'd want to start with Arizona Bay, because Arizona Bay to me is it's some of his best material, and I think there have been a couple of albums released since then of different performances around the time of those albums, and one thing that there's something called Rant in E minor, the variations, and that has material both from Arizona Bay and Rant in E minor. But the Arizona Bay material is better, I feel, on the reissued stuff, because it doesn't have the music mixed in.
Yeah, that's really distracting.
It was to me. It was an experiment on his part, because he wanted to mix what he loved. He was a musician and he played guitar, and he wanted to mix his music with the comedy. It was sort of a concept album in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And my personal take on it is my brain wants to go either towards the music or the comedy, and I find it distracting a lot of the time.
It's distracting, and then it comes up, it rises up while he's talking, and then it goes. You're like, what is?
Well, it was done intentionally. He was trying to like build a crescendo and do the same thing with the comedy and the music. And I get what he was trying to do. It just,
I thought they were doing some cutting edge stuff with that, mixing the music with the comedy, but
it just didn't.
I agree that it doesn't work.
I mean, but that comedy is really great, and I strongly recommend getting that Rant in E minor variations album, because it has a lot of that same material but sans music, and you know, you can just concentrate on.
It wasn't there an expanded Arizona Bay?
Oh, you know, there may have been. I don't know if I've actually heard the expanded Arizona Bay, because the Rant in E minor stuff has so much of that stuff, so I don't know of.
There's a ton of Bill Hicks on Spotify.
Yeah, we did a playlist for this show. It's really just those 4 records,
right? Which is, I mean, he had his hand in all 4 of those albums. Like he knew what material was going to be included in all of them, even if it was released after he was dead, for Arizona Bay and Randy Minor. But he had mapped those out. Those were all his productions. Randy Minor also has some music, but I think it's less invasive, and it's more segue material. There's a couple of pieces where it's overlapped, but I think it works better in those instances where it overlaps on Randy Minor. It's the better of the 4 albums. But so yeah, I would Arizona Bay is of the 4 albums, that's one I would get last. for that reason alone. The material is great, but you know, the other stuff is good. But anyway, Bill was born in Valdosta, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. He was born in Georgia and moved to Texas at a young age. And he was his comedy career, he owed a lot to Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison helped him out a lot in those early days. And then when he came to New York, then it was Rodney Dangerfield, and he played a lot at Dangerfield's.
And David Letterman really gave him a shot too.
He did, and then famously,
they didn't show it, or
the second appearance they didn't show. Yeah,
it was it ended up being his final appearance.
They didn't know that. Yeah, they cut it.
They cut it because he had a bit about abortion, and something about blocking. If you're so pro-life, then block cemeteries.
I remember that. Yeah, that skit. Yeah.
And that was the skit that got it. And it's so inoffensive now. If you listen to it, it's kind of a joke that was that it was such a big thing. But
this is the same time period that they were all up in arms about burning flags, and
and he was also.
Yeah, I love his whole thing where he's like, the guy's like, "Oh, my father fought and died for that flag," and he's like, "I got mine at Kmart."
He died in Vietnam. Really, mine was made in Vietnam. I think
And then he's like, "What? Your father didn't die fighting for the flag. He died fighting for freedom,
which is the freedom
like burn the flag." Checkmate. Next.
No, sure. And so so his final appearance on Letterman was not aired, and I think Letterman did a pretty classy move later on. Years later, I think it may have even been like on an anniversary of Hicks's death or something. But before he went off the air, he ended up showing that the clip in its entirety, and had Hicks's mom as a guest on the show. It was Letterman and Bill Hicks's mom, and they showed it. And Letterman said the same thing afterwards. He was like, "I really don't see what was so offensive about that. Why did that not air in the first place?" It was he was just like it was.
I'm sure it wasn't up to him.
It wasn't. I'm sure it was CBS.
Yeah.
Lawyers.
Have you watched any of Letterman's shows, like HBO or something?
I've seen a couple of the interviews. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought
I haven't checked any of it.
He's a classy guy.
I always liked him, but did not. I haven't heard anything about those shows. I keep meaning to look for them again.
Worth checking out.
Yeah,
worth checking out. So Bill, then I guess after his parents, or his mother at least, and his brother, and I think maybe his whole family, have basically taken over his catalog, and they are now controlling everything, I believe, and which is, it's great. They're
where it should be,
and they keep putting out material, and keeping his name alive.
It's hard to keep track of what you should get, or what overlaps, what repeats. There was a tremendous box set. It was called The Complete Bill Hicks, and I saw it, and I had the opportunity for multiple chances. It was on my Amazon wish list, and it had jumped up to like $100, and then briefly it dropped down to like $60, and I was gonna get it's 12 CDs and 6 DVDs,
Oh shit.
and
That's a lot.
it's a ton of footage that I was just not aware of, and you look at it. Anyway, it's now $500.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
Nice.
I'm just like, I'm just
$60
so
sounded better.
I'm so upset because we all do it. We all have a wish list. We put stuff on randomly. Randomly, you'll go through and oh, I want that. I'll buy that, and you you'll get around to some of these other items in this big wish list eventually, and then it seems like the things that you really should have are the things that disappear
And become too expensive to buy.
I
You
cannot
guys, you
I
guys know
cannot
the,
rationale dropping $500 on that thing.
you guys know the whole story about Dennis Leary ripping him off.
No.
So,
Go ahead.
well, I'll just throw a little bit out there, and then Jay, you can
Actually, you probably know more about it than me. I know that Bill had issues with him, but yeah. Please.
So, in 1993, Leary releases this album, "No Cure for Cancer."
Yeah, great.
Which was before nobody knew Hicks was going to die of cancer at that point.
Right.
It's
I
complete
smoke because
coincidence.
I'm an asshole. That was the big thing on that.
But he
Right.
basically, it's filled with Bill Hicks jokes.
Oh wow.
He basically just lifts and he had ripped off jokes from him here and there before, and Hicks had kind of tolerated it. But this album's just apparently packed with Bill Hicks material,
Oh, wow.
no acknowledgement, pretending like he wrote it. And that's the end of their friendship. But apparently, in an interview, Bill Hicks goes, "So I have a scoop for you. I stole Dennis Leary's act. I camouflaged it with a bunch of punchlines, and then to really throw people off, I did it before he did." Classic
Wow.
Bill Hicks sarcasm. There, hilarious.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Bill Hicks had just such a scathing sense of humor. There's an amazing clip of this girl heckling Bill Hicks, and he is just like a buzzsaw. He just fires.
I'll put that on the click pit too.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember at the time, we've all known that kind of cliche of wow, you're gonna let him talk to me like that, like if you're the boyfriend, and too many, you see that sometimes where the girl gets the guy in trouble by being such a bitch that the guy has to defend her or something. And you watch that and I'm like, God, I bet her boyfriend is out in the car.
Yeah, well, she was drunk. You gotta put it in context. But yeah,
right. Well, but she won't shut up, and he is just pouncing on her. It's brutal.
There's actually a few clips on YouTube of him dealing with hecklers, and he goes scorched earth on them.
Oh yeah, he goes ham on her. I mean, it's rough, but
yeah,
man,
he knew how to handle them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I know. I believe there's a story. I don't know where, unless one of you guys know it. Sam Kinison kind of not showing up for Bill, or there was a bit of a cold shoulder, some minor thing. It's probably talked about in that American documentary.
They don't mention Sam Kinison in the documentary. Jay Leno actually. Basically, what happens is he starts performing at this club in Houston called the Comedy Workshop, and this is like 1978. He's around 15 years old. Him and his buddy, he had a buddy who they had like a comedy team, and they wanted to be stand-up comics, but it's like the late 70s in Houston, Texas. There's nothing going on, and then this club opens called the Comedy Shop. So they would actually sneak out from their parents' houses when they had school the next day, go down and do the open mic nights.
That's great.
Eventually, his buddy moves. His parents move him to Portland, and so Bill's left on his own. He keeps performing there and doing his develops his own act, and then graduates high school, moves out to L.A., does the L.A. thing for a while. And while he's out in LA, his friend from Oregon comes back down and they're working on a screenplay. I'd love to see the screenplay. Apparently they wrote a screenplay, and it's kind of semi-autobiographical because Bill grew up, he was raised by Southern Baptists. It's always weird for me hearing about these people that are raised by people like that. Cause like, as we always mention on this show, we were both raised by hippie freaks, right? So it's a complete opposite.
We were raised by wolves, Jay.
Right. So this guy, like a lot of people are in this country, were raised by like hardcore, fundamentalists. Actually, his brother says they weren't fundamentalists; they were Southern Baptists, which is much worse. But anyways, they seem like nice people. They interview the mother in the documentary, and they were good people. But they just had this kind of, you got to go to church every Sunday, you can't smoke or drink, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, growing up, it was always, you want to go stay at your buddy's house. You're good, it's the weekend, it's Friday night or Saturday. Let me go over. Oh, you've got church on Sunday. You're like, what? Give me a break, lady.
So the screenplay was about growing up with those kind of parents, very autobiographical kind of thing. And they actually had an appointment with an agent at William Morris. They're like 19 years old, living out in LA. And at this time, Bill's starting to do open mic nights at the Comedy Store or whatever the big clubs are out there.
Sure.
And they have an appointment with this big agent from William Morris. He reads the script. He goes, it doesn't quite have a good ending. Why don't you do another draft and come back to me? And Bill just couldn't motivate himself to do the other draft. They had worked so hard on that script, and when it wasn't automatically accepted, and he's like, you know what? I don't want to be a screenwriter anyways. I just want to be a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So his friend moves back to Portland. Bill gets disillusioned with LA, rightly so. I mean, it's a freaking cesspool, right? And he moves back to Houston and gets in with this group of comics. And I think they call themselves the Texas Outlaw Comics. And that's where he really comes into his own. He's not in LA trying to be somebody else or, impress agents. He just starts doing his own thing. And Jay Leno comes through and meets him. And that's how he got on Letterman the first time. His first time he's on Letterman early in his career, that did get aired.
Right.
And it was actually Leno back when Leno was a touring comedian before he was a bad host of the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And Lennon was a rock star comedian. He was like Jerry Seinfeld. When these guys were just touring, they were rock stars amongst the comedy community. Leno and Seinfeld, and so it was a big deal that Leno took him under his wing, and
Right.
he gets on Letterman, and basically has an initial successful phase of his career. And he had started drinking and smoking and doing drugs and all that. And like a lot of these people that get raised in this puritanical environment, once they start drinking and doing, like, I first drank, I was 14 years old, and me and a friend of mine were going to sneak out and go get drunk. And my mom found out, and she says, "You're not going to go out and get drunk. You're going to stay here where it's safe and get drunk." And sat me and my friend down and got out a bottle of wine. Here's what it's like to get drunk. And I never became a raging alkie, right? But if you're raised in this puritanical kind of thing, and then you just go freaking wild.
It's the classic off to college and you lose your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Because you're not,
And so that's what happened. He basically just became hardcore alcoholic and got to where he would be on stage and so wasted he'd just be laying down on the floor screaming. Like his brother brings a friend of his, "Hey man, my brother's a successful comedian and he's in town. Want to come see him? He brings a friend from work, and they go see him, and Bill comes out just totally wasted and proceeds to lay on the floor and just scream in pain.
Oh my God!
Wow. Yeah.
So
Oh my God!
eventually he had to, he had to quit, man. You just, some people, you just got to quit. Doug Stanhope gives Bill Hicks a hard time posthumously for quitting drinking, but not everybody can be Bukowski and Hunter Thompson and Doug Stanhope.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah,
not. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's true. But yeah, I know several people who they wouldn't be alive right now if they hadn't stopped, and it's a good thing that they did. Also, Bill had a video thing. He did a movie called Ninja Bachelor Party.
We gotta look for that on YouTube.
Yeah, and so I actually have a VHS copy that that they made with a handmade cover. It's really sort of low budget DIY stuff, but it was him and his buddies, including the guy that you were talking about earlier that he did stand up with early on, which was, I think it was David Jondro was that guy. His other buddy that he did music with, and also this movie Ninja Bachelor Party, was named Kevin Booth, who has been instrumental in putting out the Bill Hicks material that's been done posthumously. He was
Now everybody's going to have Ninja Bachelor Party because I found it on YouTube and we're going to link it in the clickbait.
excellent.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's funny. It's pretty bad, but it's it has its moments, and it's Bill, so it's
probably better than Dude, Where's My Car? Let me just weigh in.
There's a speaking of legendary dead comics, Mitch Hedberg is one of my favorites, and
he's hilarious.
there's a Mitch Hedberg and his buddies filmed an independent movie that never got released as well, and that's on YouTube, and it's fun to watch. It's about a bunch of guys working at a diner, and it's interesting because it reminds me of some shit that Silky and I made. It's just like, just getting a video camera together and making stupid movies. So DIY, I'm sure Ninja Bachelor Party is probably along the same kind of thing.
I have a feeling it is. Yeah. It's fun to watch, but better for Bill Hicks fans probably than just
sure.
Well, if you're not a Bill Hicks fan, then you better turn around and get the fuck out of here.
That's right. They wouldn't have made it this far.
Yeah.
The complete collection I said was 6 DVDs, 12 CDs. So it's Rantney, Minor, Arizona Bay, Dangerous, Relentless, then Salvation, 12, 16, 81, Love, Laughter, and Truth, Flying Saucer Tour, Volume 1, Volume 2, early Bill Hicks, and then Queen's Theater early show and Queen's Theater late show.
Interesting, which were I believe those were used in putting together the video that was released by the BBC. I think I'm sure it was BBC. That's at the time that was the only option in England. But that's the other thing we should mention is that England was a big place for Bill. He actually
they loved him.
Like the Pixies, which is one of Brett's favorite bands. They got really big in England before
the Pixies.
Pixies.
Yeah. I've warmed a little bit to the Pixies, not much, but I do like
this little known cat
solo album.
There's this rare, obscure, little-known cat named Jimi Hendrix who got big in England before he got big.
Also,
that's another one
with 2 English fellas playing with him. Actually,
actually, so I do have to let our viewers know that while we're discussing Bill Hicks, Silky is texting me an eBay link to a Kiss action figure box set. It's a limited edition band set. It's Kiss on the stage, all 4 of them. And it's only $120.
Yeah, you have to get that, dude.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I had the Bill Hicks pulled up, and I swiped and it went to that, which is weird.
Oh yeah, you didn't mean to look up Kiss at all. I'm sure.
So the DVDs, this is interesting, Jay. You might dig this. Live at Comics Annex Houston 81, then Houston 84, Indianapolis
Wow.
85.
He was a kid.
Comics Annex Houston 86, show 1, 86, show 2. Early years TV interview, that'd be hilarious. Then the Outlaw Comics, like you said, then an Outlaw Comics interview, and then Sane Man, which I have seen that.
Right.
Then Live at the Funny Farm, Chicago 89.
Which I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might be the show where the interaction with the woman happens. I could be wrong about that. I think that might be that.
Wow. So you'd have that whole thing.
Yeah.
Live at Looney's, Colorado Springs 90. Live at Igby's, Los Angeles 90. Then Relentless, Reflections, One Night Stand, Ninja Bachelor Party is on this box set.
There you
So
go.
this is the box set that's now $500.
Yeah, it's too. I
All
can't.
right, well, let's do this.
There's no way.
Send me the link in case any of our fans out there actually have money and they want to spend $500.
I will. Live at Zany's, Nashville 91. Live at Punchline, San Francisco 91. Then Totally Bill Hicks. Live at the Laugh Stop, Austin 91. December 92, same Austin. Laugh Stop 93. And
which would have been in that last tour.
Yeah, June of 93, and then October of 93.
That would have been the last tour, yeah.
And then Live at Igby's, Los Angeles 93, and that's it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he was that Igby's gig in Los Angeles in 93. He was with a friend of his, and this is before, like, only his family knew he was dying. And they're walking in for that gig, and he goes, "This is the last time I'm ever going to play Igby's." And his friend's like, "What? No, they love you here." And he
that's
didn't
got to be this last show here.
Yeah, he didn't explain why he said that, and his friend's thinking maybe he's going to go on tour and just not come back. You guys know.
Real quick, that's one of my favorite things about the Rant E Minor is that he starts it off by saying, "This is my last ever show," and he says, "It's because I finally got my TV show on CBS is coming this fall. Let's hunt and kill Billy Ray Cyrus."
Yeah.
That was
oh my God.
Yeah, that was the.
Yeah, we used to go. We would drive out and play frisbee golf, and inevitably we would hear these Bill Hicks concerts on the way out to Stone Mountain.
Imagine that.
And I remember hearing that specific bit on the way out there. But the last thing about that box set is got a 48-page photo book of rare photos and stories and whatnot. So it would be amazing to have this.
I mean, it sounds like it's got enough stuff to be worth $500 if someone has the fund.
Right. And at the time, when I first put that on my list, it was like $60. And I was like, man, I got to get that.
You moron.
Yeah. If I had that right now, it would be. I would be so proud to have that because.
All right. So Snags and Silky Nation, if you buy enough merch, then Silky's half of the cut is $500. He'll be able to. I'll be able
to get this, and then I'll even post the shows for you. So in a way, we all get this.
Go buy 1,000 hoodies right now.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys know about the whole Tool connection?
Yeah, Tool has 2 songs that reference Bill Hicks.
Yeah, and he toured with them when they were doing Lollapalooza in '93. He opened for them, and then they dedicated the album Anima. Is that how you pronounce it?
Right.
Yeah, Anima.
And there's artwork of him in it, right? There's like a painting or something.
There's a version of the album that has Bill Hicks on it. It's an alternate artwork version, but it has a painting of Bill Hicks.
I have seen that before.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's kind of like when Cobain called out Tarantino in the liner notes to which album was that? I think it might have been Incesticide, the EP.
Right.
One of Cobain's albums, one of the Nirvana albums, he dedicates it to Tarantino, who had just dropped Reservoir Dogs. There was a whole kind of the '80s were such a the mainstream underground '80s were freaking awesome. You had Black Flag, you had Minutemen, you had all kinds of cool shit, but mainstream culture was just stiflingly homogenous and terrible. And there was this whole thing in the late '80s, early '90s where just all these interesting artists were good movies were being allowed to be made again. Good music was hitting the top of the charts. And so I think there was a sense of brotherhood. Someone like Cobain sees Reservoir Dogs, he's got to acknowledge it. And same thing with like Tool and Bill Hicks.
Well, and Cobain did that a lot with just a lot of different bands, like Jesus Lizard. They ended up doing a split single with Jesus Lizard because he wanted them.
I remember that.
He wore the Daniel Johnston T-shirt because he wanted to promote Daniel Johnston, and he was really good about that.
The Meat Puppets.
Yeah, Meat Puppets. Yeah,
covering the Meat Puppets. Yeah, it's Lake of Fire.
That's a great cover too.
Yeah. Hey, it's only $2.98 on Amazon.
Yeah, it's a good version, which means it's beat to hell probably, but still, that's just way too much. I just figure Jay might see it up in one of those amazing record stores up there or some.
Yeah, the only reason we're doing this episode, actually, Jay, is because he's hoping you'll find that box set and send it to him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you're thinking. I mean, New York City is just like it's more expensive than anywhere else. So, you're better off finding it somewhere else than.
But now I figured you might even have it.
Yeah, I should probably, but yeah, it has never crossed my path.
Had you heard of it until today?
I think I'd heard that it was coming out, but I at the time just thought it was too much. But yeah. I sadly don't have that. It seems like it's something I should own.
Yeah, just for all those DVDs.
Yeah, that's a lot of material.
It really is, and I do remember going, man, it's dropped in price. I need to jump on this.
Yeah.
And then whatever happened, how shit.
Life happens, man.
Yeah, I probably bought something for the boy.
Then it's already thrown away. And he played with it for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So basically, Bill Hicks goes into this alcoholic black hole, and his life goes to shit. Nobody wants to book him anymore. They're not going to bring him back on Letterman. His shows are starting to just people are sending drinks up to see how drunk they can get him. And
oh wow,
that's never good.
He basically decides he's going to go on the wagon, and he's got all these friends in Houston. He's living there. Excuse me. Stop taking bong tokes before the episodes. So he's living there, and they're all partiers. All his buddies are, drinking, doing coke, and everything else. Mm. So he, out of the blue, he just moves to New York.
Right, and he talks about living in Houston, where he paid $400 a month, and there was a 3-bedroom apartment with a balcony, and he moves to New York City, and $1,000 a month gets him an apartment where he can touch one wall with this hand and this wall with this hand, and that's about right.
How much square footage you guys got? I bet it looks like a nice place.
We have a nice place. It's 750 square feet roughly, but it's not a lot. It's it's a 1-bedroom apartment. We've lived here for 22 years, so.
Yeah, I mean that you're living. It's actually you're only going to bring in what's essential because of the room you have.
Absolutely, yeah. My record collection has gotten out of control.
I mean, I would almost have a storage place for all my records, But
yeah. But the funny thing is, it's expensive. It's small but expensive, and that's
when I lived in San Francisco, it wasn't expensive; it was offensive.
Yeah, and what's funny is now that same apartment that Bill was talking about that cost him $1,000 a month would probably cost him about $4,000.
$4,000 a month. That's
between
crazy.
3 and 4. Yeah, easy.
Yeah, That's
That's
insane.
incredible. That's
So
incredible.
he's apparently he was up there for like 6 months. He didn't do any comedy. He was just going to meetings and getting sober. And then when he comes back, starts doing gigs again, that apparently is when he started getting edgy. Like before, he was really fucking funny. He was a brilliant comedian, but his material wasn't as cutting edge.
Abrasive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, or just as insightful. You know, it's the George Carlin thing.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Carlin had sort of the goofy comedy thing for many years.
Yeah.
And late 80s, Reagan, I think, kind of did it for him. Late 80s, his things started getting a little more.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, it just ratcheted up and up until he was just almost.
Carlin is just so amazing. These little comments, his whole thing with just funny words, and then he's being silly, but he's so funny.
Right. But that's the thing. In the 70s, it was almost all that sort of silly type stuff. And then as it got later in his career, and as he got older and more angry, his comedy got more angry. And the same sort of thing happened with Hicks.
Yeah, and there's just another level to it. It's not just being funny. He's trying to poke holes in the fabric of just apathy and idiocy.
Yeah, and the viewpoint, the way they saw things, and they would say it, and you'd go, "Oh my, that's exactly," it's like, so spot on.
Another cat that was on the same wavelength, who was a musician, was Frank Zappa. Same kind of thing, man.
Robert Schimmel is another one that's just hysterical.
But so hold on a second. I'm being asked something. What? Did you take your night? I don't know. I'm not paying attention. I'm recording a podcast. I just got asked by my wife if she took her vitamins or not. They're getting old.
I don't know. I didn't hear any movement. So
I didn't hear you gulping over there. So Anyways, so basically,
the one line of George Carlin that I always just die over is he's like, "Do you ever notice most of the women that are against abortion you wouldn't want to fuck in the first place?"
There you go.
There you go.
Like, wow.
Carlin has if you look up George Carlin's rant on God on YouTube, it's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things he did.
That or him just trashing Mickey Mouse. That just kills me. I hope he dies.
But it's just another level once he got sober, and then apparently a lot of people say who were there while this was all going on, after he found out he was going to die, it just ratcheted up another level. He did quite a few shows after he knew he was going to die before he told everybody and checked out.
Yeah, and I think that last the one that starts Rent in E minor, I think that was his last show. I could be wrong about that, but I think that was his last show. Parts of Rant in E minor were from that. It was October of '93.
So, do you think he was money was coming in and he was starting to live comfortably, or?
I think a little bit. Yeah, I think the English money helped him a little bit, actually, because BBC money. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a ton of money, but I think he was doing better. I mean, he was still touring a lot, and I think that was that was part of his joke. The whole flying saucer tour was great.
Oh yeah.
I'm playing small little hick towns, and only 5 hillbillies see me.
Yeah. But no, I just always wondered, he's touring, people are coming to see him. Certainly not like your Kevin Hart. He's amazing. Like
he never got that big. I mean, he really only got, nobody besides a small cult group of people, less than Doug Stanhope's cult group of people now knew who Bill Hicks was. I mean, Bill just, it took the Ryko disc releasing his stuff posthumously for people to really Yeah, the life of a comic is weird. I mean, yeah, he could be playing sold out shows, but I mean,
There's
how much is he actually making?
200 people there, and
I mean, he's probably
One
making enough
big
to
tour,
get by, but
one big tour in the UK isn't going to be enough to retire off of.
exactly. I mean, he wasn't making that kind of money, but yeah, I mean, maybe he was starting to see, it seemed like things were starting to move for him in certain directions, maybe. But
well, he certainly wasn't trying to get a job at Walmart or something.
Oh no, well, no. I mean, he would just he was selling shows, but here's the thing about those. I mean, like, great example. If you speaking of Doug Stanhope, if you like watch one of his early performances, he's talking to the crowd and he's like, I'm watching behind the music and everybody's chanting their name, and I think it's me. I get so hyped up and they're going to be chanting my name. And hey, what's my name? And he says to the crowd, he's like, you don't know my name. No, you just got free tickets to the radio show. You don't know, it's like, and that's the thing about comedy, especially at those like the fire trap basement comedy clubs. It's like, unless you really, I mean, nowadays, maybe people know more comics because of the internet and what have you, but certainly back in those days, you got free tickets, or you got, let's go see a comedy show. It's what's her name's bachelorette party or what,
right.
You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like,
and you don't even know who
the fucking comic is.
You're not going there. Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the life of a comic. And I mean, like I said, maybe now it's changed a little bit, but probably not that much. I mean,
you right now tonight, you've probably got hundreds of comedians across the country doing stand-up to a full bar, and people have never heard of the guy.
And won't remember their name afterwards, even if they thought they were funny. Oh, is that guy's name? I don't fucking know.
I don't remember.
I mean, the majority of people just don't fucking care.
I've been to several like Limelight or there's a couple comedy places down here, and I saw somebody that was absolutely hysterical. I couldn't tell you who it was.
And unfortunately, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
He kicks the bucket February 26th and 94, exactly 30 years ago tonight. And there's actually a interesting list on Wikipedia of his, basically how he influenced culture. I just want to rattle off a few things here.
Sure.
We talked about the Tool album. Radiohead dedicated one of their albums to Bill Hicks. Faith No More. So Bill Hicks had this joke. It's always funny until someone gets hurt. Then it's just hilarious. And that's a refrain in a Faith No More song.
That's funny.
The Public Enemy. Some Built to Spill. I've never heard of them, but they mention him in a song. This is what I was most impressed with, because this cat's a legend. Tom Waits lists Rant in E Minor as one of his top 20 best albums of all time.
I've read that as well. Yeah.
And all kinds of people are obviously influenced by him. Joe Rogan, Dave Attell, Lewis Black, Patton Oswalt, David Cross, Russell Brand, Ron White. That's a pretty good list.
Until Joe Rogan references the Snags and Silky show, let's not mention.
He won't, because we're his biggest competition. He'll never acknowledge us.
Yeah, the ongoing bickering,
neck and neck battle between Joe Rogan Experience and Snags and Silky. It's really riveting stuff.
It's heated.
It's always in the news.
We're not allowed to really get into the whole beef with Joe.
Yeah, Spotify won't, as part of their policy, they won't let us talk about Joe too much.
Yeah. Snags and Joe really, well, we've said enough. We can't.
Yeah. I kicked his ass, but we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
So
one other thing, John Lahr, who is Bert Lahr's the lion in Wizard of Oz, his son was and is a writer a great writer, and wrote a biography on as part of a book of biographies of artists. A book, I think a chapter of it was on Bill Hicks, and it's definitely worth reading. This was done right after he died, so it would have been done in
Do you know what that's called, or?
I don't, but if you look up John Lahr, which is Lahr, and Bill Hicks, I'm sure you'll find it was in the New Yorker. Maybe it might have initially been published in the New Yorker.
Couple other legacy things that reflect his impact in England. He's definitely more well known over there. There was a one-man stage show in 2004 called Bill Hicks' Slight Return, where British actor Chaz Early plays Bill Hicks. I looked for that on YouTube and I couldn't find it, but it's a little
interesting.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Also, 2000
could be kind of cool.
Could be. I would rather just watch Bill Hicks personally.
You never know.
You never know.
So, 2004, the same thing. These both happened on the 10th anniversary of Bill's death. Minister of Parliament Stephen Pound tabled an early day motion titled "Anniversary of the Death of Bill Hicks." Whatever an early day motion is, who knows? Some European Parliament gobbledygook. But the text of the motion read that this House notes with sadness the 10th anniversary of the death of Bill Hicks on 26th February 1994 at the age of, they said 33, but he was 32, recalls his assertion that his words could be a bullet in the heart of consumerism, capitalism, and the American dream, and mourns the passing of one of the few people who may be mentioned as being worthy of inclusion with Lenny Bruce in any list of unflinching, painfully honest political philosophers. So, highfalutin praise from the Parliament and some Minister of Parliament in England.
Yeah, I imagine not of the Conservative Party, but
no, probably not.
Yeah, well, if he's saying he's against capitalism, then because things were so much better over in East Germany. But anyways, we're not to go. Rock band Clutch mentions Bill Hicks in the song "How to Shake Hands."
They're
Clutch
great. I love. Jay, before we go, those records behind you. Do you want to tell?
Oh yeah,
sure.
Give our audience to those records you were talking about before the show.
So one of them was the Brantley Minor Variations, which is the thing. But the other one, it's a 4-record set put out by an English label, which is it's called Bill Hicks Intricate Stories, and it's basically alternate shows from both the Dangerous and Relentless tours.
Oh wow!
So it's Dangerous and Relentless, but it's them bypassing getting licensing from Rykodisc, I guess, so they can just put out the vinyl of pretty much the same material from other shows with slightly different,
Well, and that's the thing is, he might tell the same joke that night, but it's in a different
and it's very much that
energy level or
sometimes a different wording, which is slightly better because he's experimenting.
Sure.
That's the whole thing. He's, these guys get bored telling the same jokes night after night.
Exactly.
So, they try to put a little twist on it.
But then that would be the frustrating thing is you want to maybe come out and you've got a whole new spiel and somebody's like, hey, do the one about, and you're like,
yeah, maybe you probably get less of that as a comedian, especially back then, because people didn't know his material, it's just like, so every show would be a different thing for the audience.
Yeah.
But for him, it's like pounding your head against the wall doing the same material over and over.
Sure. Yeah.
If you look at we did a Dwayne Allman episode a little while back, and if you look at the Spotify Allman Brothers discography, there's a ton of bootlegs. Fillmore East and the live stuff on Eda Peaches.
Yeah, live at Ludlow.
But the Fillmore East and the live stuff on Eda Peach is like the classic catalog live. Dwayne,
and that's the way you want to hear those.
And you've got 20 other concerts on there now. It's all bootlegs, and it's just you want to hear. If you're enough of a fanatic, you want to hear a slightly different version of Mountain Jam or whatever, they're there. Similar, I guess, with this Bill Hicks stuff.
Sure.
That they perform differently on different nights. Couple other things to note. We're coming up on the hour mark and probably going to wrap it up pretty soon. But there have been 2 attempts to make a Bill Hicks biopic. In 2012, Russell Crowe. In 2012, Russell Crowe was going to direct one that he was going to star in as Bill Hicks.
Oh.
And that would have been kind of weird. This would have been the better one, the second one. In 2018, Richard Linklater was going to do a Bill Hicks. Now, that's a match made in freaking heaven.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
But 2018 is a long time ago, and nothing's come of it. So who knows? Yeah. I would love to see a Linklater Bill Hicks bio. Yeah. I don't know who they get to play Bill Hicks, but
wow,
it's looking awesome. Yeah,
it would. You had the Lenny Bruce movie that Dustin Hoffman, I believe,
that was a good flick. Yeah, it was Hoffman.
Yeah. So I still think there's a lot of people that don't really know who Bill Hicks is.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, he's still pretty much a fringe character out there.
Well, what's great is, as good as he was, I think the cool people know who he is.
Yeah. Anybody cool enough to listen to the Snags and Silky podcast?
There's that.
Yeah, they're gonna know who he is. Yeah. Indeed. That's why our audience is so much smaller than Joe, because we only accept the cool people. Joe's sold out. He'll let any idiot listen to his podcast. Anyways, so we got Jay. You got any final words on your idol here, Bill Hicks?
The guy was pretty special. I mean, I liked how he would end all of his albums with just, I mean, like any comic, you end with a big finale. But when he did the
soapbox thing,
but it was always a big ending, which unfortunately I don't have right now.
I know, but it was something I can kind of summarize it though, something along the lines of, because he'd always have these, and this is another thing, it doesn't really fit into one wing of politics or another, especially these days, but he was very much against this whole interventionist foreign policy thing where we, hey, let's sell a bunch of weapons to some small country and then we'll bomb the shit out of them 10 years later. He's like, you could use all that technology to shoot food at some hungry guy on an island somewhere.
Or he would say, let's take all the money, feed everybody, and then spend the rest of our eternity traveling through space.
Yeah, that's the big ending that's at the end of the documentary. He's wrapping up a show and he's like, we could spend the rest of we could spend our time exploring space, both outer and inner, so it's in that documentary at the very end. It's not just soapbox. It's a philosophy and a viewpoint.
It's just so like, why can't we as one planet, pursue knowledge and travel versus how many ways can we kill each other?
I'm sure
I think he also had the problem with children. I think that was another one of his main.
Your children aren't special.
Yeah.
That's what I named the playlist.
Good, excellent
for this. But I will. The last thing I want to say about Bill Hicks is I can remember riding in Jay's car and this whole spiel where he's being Satan and just screaming into the microphone and just thinking, how is Jason driving? Because we were laughing so fucking hard.
Because I'd and already almost wrecked the car laughing. There were several times. I would definitely say that when I first put in those first 2 cassettes after buying them at Tower on that first day, I had to pull over, and I think when I got home, I just stayed in the car and just listened to the end of the day.
I can literally, like, it's just so rare, but like doubled over gasping. Yeah. And Hicks is just killing you with his delivery is just, it is dangerous. It is relentless. You know,
it's true. It's true. He was damn good at what he did. That man.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, cheers to Bill Hicks.
Yeah, it's whiskey cola right here.
Peace out. Cheers to Bill Hicks. And if you want to explore more Bill Hicks, it's all on the website, snagsandsilky.com. Check out the links.
Excellent.